I have never once had narratively appropriate sex, nor has a loved one's death been a metaphor for something greater. Sometimes things just happen. That is life, and our story should reflect that. Cameron Lauder. The Daily Grind, Chapter 166. Monsters and domains, small gods and big responsibilities, new faces and new attempts. The Order spent a lot of its time, day to day, being busy. It wasn't just as an organization, either. Individually, almost everyone had a laundry list of important stuff to take care of, and downtime was both precious and welcome. Not that the work itself wasn't rewarding, and often fun in its own right, but it was work. Effort and energy put towards something bigger. Not bad, but not exactly restful. So it was that when James found himself with a day off, he increasingly loved just being able to kick back and do nothing, guilt-free. Of course, today he wasn't doing nothing. He was meeting up with his partners for coffee, because there was an amount of free time on their parts, too, and they all just wanted to sit and relax and enjoy the evening together. Their apartment sat at the midway point of a winding black asphalt footpath that cut through multiple suburbs and small shopping centers. A belt through the rampant greenway that would, if James followed it for 20 minutes, lead him to the coffee shop that he loved living nearby. It wasn't exactly all green anymore, the mid-September environment being one where a lot of the grass had dried out from the summer sun and been trampled into a series of footpaths by an uncountable number of excited dogs and teenagers. But the leaves of the trees hadn't started to change yet, and the summer warmth stretched on even into this later month. He enjoyed the simple pleasure of the walk, smiling as he saw a deer by the side of the path where it ran into a patch of wooded land, and smiling a little more when one of those excited dogs that was being walked in the opposite direction stopped to give him a friendly sniff. The air smelled like living things, and he could hear more birds than cars, and that was wonderful. James wasn't an outdoorsy person, not really, but he vastly preferred this kind of blended environment to the noisy hostility of denser urban spaces. Especially when these environments gave him convenient and pleasant paths between his apartment and caffeine. "Hey guys," James greeted his partners, the two of them sitting at a heavy wrought iron patio table. James deposited his coat into an empty chair and leaned his walking stick on the wall nearby. "Hope I'm not too late." "Not too much. Why do you have a stick?" Anesh asked, eyeing the carved wood suspiciously. James grinned. "It's my wizard staff." "Are you a wizard?" Alana asked around a bite of the muffin that she had bought. "Actually asking. I'm not sure if that's your official title." "Well, yeah, though not because of the staff," James admitted. "It's also not an official title. I think for legal reasons my rank is actually paladin, which I'm not sure if I should be happy or embarrassed about." Anesh sighed and held out a hand, palm up. "James, does the staff—" He paused. "Actually, I guess I need to be less sarcastic asking things like this these days. Does the staff do anything? Does it shoot fireballs?" "Don't be silly, this isn't Stargate." James rolled his eyes. "So you can't shoot fireballs?" Alana challenged him. James shook his head. "Anyone can shoot fireballs with little effort." "So—" "And the right training," James added. "So it can't—" "And the gun that shoots fireballs," James concluded. Anesh cracked first. "James, what does the bloody stick do?" "It makes me feel like a wizard." James couldn't keep the wide smile off his face. "Also, it's a walking stick, because my feet hurt from all the endless running we do." "Go get your coffee," Alana and Anesh said in harmony, shaking their collective heads and pointedly turning away from him. With a quick laugh, James pulled open the glass door of the cafe and went to place an order, walking through lacquered wood tables and a fairly sizable crowd as he did so. It was, he realized, partially a good sign that so many people were out and about again. Their area, at least, was on the road to recovery. James was still more than a little annoyed that he hadn't actually been able to physically punch the pandemic into submission, either literally or metaphorically. But it was also a sign that the world moved on even if he didn't personally intervene. There were a lot of smart and dedicated people out there, solving problems at high speed, just like him. It felt good to realize that. It still made his teeth itch to see a crowd of more than 5 people after over a year of quarantine and lockdown procedures, but still, optimism. Though as James turned to stand at the end of the counter and wait for his mocha, he did also notice that he and his partners weren't the only members of the Order here either. At a table in the corner, Deb and Frequency of Sunlight sat sharing a piece of cake, the Camerconda doing an excellent impression of someone who was unbothered by the curious glances they were getting from the 3 tables that had line of sight to them. Well, 2 tables. One of them appeared to be a somewhat rambunctious bunch of teenagers, some of whom James recognized as people he had interviewed for internship positions. None of them were staring, even the ones who didn't actually work for the Order, which James could appreciate. He traded a nod and a smile with Deb, collected his coffee, and headed back out to the warm night to sit with his own partners. "So," he asked as he slumped into his chair and painfully sat on the keys in his coat pocket, "is this just where everyone from the Order hangs out now?" "Pretty much," Alana said, tipping a finger off her cup to point down the side of the cafe, to where Simon stood against a railing staring down at the pond that bordered the edge of this little shopping area. "It's nice. The staff knows us, they're used to our bullshit, and they have free cake for non-humans." "Wait, seriously?" James quirked his eyebrows. Anesh gave a quick nod. "Oh yeah, they've got a sign for it and everything. Though I think it was here before us, and they meant cake for dogs, but, well, we're here now, and they actually stuck to it, which is kind of them." "It's nice," James mused, as he shifted back to a relaxed position, letting his shoulders slump a little as he leaned into the chair. "It's nice to see normal people not caring about the Camercondas. That makes me feel good. Fuck knows the snakes deserve some kindness." Alana swallowed her mouthful of drink and made an interjecting noise with her throat. "I actually am needing to ask about that," she said when she could. "And I want to start this with, I am not trying to be a shit. But do the Camercondas actually have the population needed to be part of society? There's only like 40 of them?" She glanced at Anesh. "Help me out here. Is that the right number?" "I'm a mathematician. I'm not a wiki." Anesh indignantly stretched out the word mathematician, putting emphasis on each individual syllable. "Also, you are not even close. It's somewhere closer to 80. James initially miscounted by a dozen more." "It's a few more now," James pointed out, rotating his drink in his hands and waiting for it to cool off. "Sort of. The 2 Camercondas that Simon captured from the office are, I'm not going to say integrating exactly, but they're in custody of the other Camercondas, and I'm given to understand that they're growing and learning, so that's cool." "That's really cool, but I'm still worried about population numbers. It would suck for them to just drop into the fray of Earth as an eternal minority and then tell them to go nuts, you know?" Alana frowned. "It's a disparity. It's a big numbers problem." "Oh! Oh!" James slapped the table, and instantly regretted it as he precariously rattled the drink in front of Anesh. "Sorry, but I just thought of something." "We can't duplicate Camercondas, they're too big," Anesh told him dryly. "Also, we can't take them into the dungeon. It's a whole thing. You've probably heard of it." He waved a hand idly in the air. James stuck out his tongue at his boyfriend. "No, no, no. The stuff you brought back from the Akashic Sewer." "The stuff that smells, looks, and has the same chemical composition as beef-based lunch meat in sauce?" Anesh asked with a puckered grimace. "Ugh," Alana commented. Double ugh. Why is that the stuff that makes me feel sick and not the, like, river of literal puke? "I don't know. Also, can we please switch back to my thing so I can enjoy food without feeling sick sometime in the next month?" James cut in. "None of those things. Anyway, the Shaper substance. We know where to find it now. We know it can alter biology kind of on a macro scale. We should probably check with Deb or, like, an actual expert on if it changes genetics, but it could be something that could modify the Camercondas to be able to, you know, have kids." "Didn't the rat roaches say it's incredibly painful?" Alana asked with a worried expression. And they were walking around unperturbed by broken ribs. Painful for them is a high bar. Deb has a plan for that, James said. Also, side note, does anyone know if the rat roaches have names? Saying the rat roaches over and over is getting weird. We should ask Sarah, Anesh suggested wisely. James nodded along. Good plan. I'll text her. Why? Alana asked. Just ask her. She pointed over James's shoulder to where Sarah was walking up to the door of the coffee shop, chatting and laughing with a group of people that James didn't recognize. Okay, seriously, does everyone go here now? James chuckled. I guess she does technically live in the area, so that one's more reasonable. I'll ask her later. She seems busy, and we're relaxing. We absolutely are not, Anesh told him. Alana tilted her head at her boyfriend. Yeah, we're talking shop. This is work. And I'm supposed to be off for most of the rest of the day. Oh yeah, response tonight? James asked her. Yep. By the way, thanks for telling me about the armor thing. Nick actually shaped me a custom plate. It's so much nicer, Alana said. But also, this doesn't count as relaxing either. Well, that one wasn't my fault, James rolled his eyes. All right, no work stuff. Anesh, how's working for NASA going? Alana gave him a look, while Anesh just let out a snort of laughter. It's going. I'm making friends with a lot of other people there, actually, which is weird. I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but syncing up to myself always leaves me feeling like I've had really, really full days. Not busy exactly, but packed with stuff. But yeah, it's going good. We're putting a new satellite telescope in orbit soon to watch sunspots. I actually worked on it a little bit. I don't know if I can fully express to you how ridiculously good it feels to put something in space. Anesh glanced down at the table, partially hiding the small smile he was wearing. Oh, and I'm on the unofficial NASA basketball team, he added. That's a thing? James asked, curious. Also, wait, no, that's way less important than the space project. Oh, I only did a small part of the space thing. The basketball is much more impressive, Anesh said. Can I just say, if I haven't before, that skipping the boring initial learning wall of a hobby makes it way more fun to engage with that hobby? Getting to go right to the meat of basketball has really given me an appreciation for the playing of it. I feel the same way about a lot of skills, yeah, James agreed. I think a lot of it is that learning usually takes a lot of failure, but before you have any real way to contextualize that failure, learn from it, it can feel like a brick wall. At a certain point, you know enough to learn, but until then, it's just aggravating trial and error. And breaking stuff, Alana added happily. Back when I was first starting in the garage, I completely bricked the motor assembly in a car window because I screwed one thing up. I didn't know what that thing was because I didn't know what that thing was, if that makes sense. Now I could just look at it and see where I screwed up and go, well, won't do that again. But Jesus, it was like headbutting a rock. I messed up and I knew I'd do it again. That feeling sucks. I often forget you were a mechanic, James noted. I was lots of things, Alana cheerfully reminded him. I also still am a mechanic. Worked a bunch of stupid jobs. Mechanic was probably the most fun, like Anesh said, once I learned what I needed to learn. James shook his head. Well, I'm sorry we're trying to put you out of a job by making cars obsolete. No hard feelings, Alana told him wryly. They sat for a while, letting conversation lapse while they just enjoyed each other's company, sipping drinks and occasionally checking phones, just enjoying the evening. Until Anesh ruined it, of course. I don't mean to ruin anyone's night, he opened with, ominously. But is that cop car watching us? He tilted his head slightly, indicating a direction. James and Alana turned, not to look directly where Anesh was indicating, but instead toward each other, making a small motion like they were secretly whispering and easily putting the indicated car in their view. Yes, James said, as they turned back to Anesh. Probably, anyway. Should we do something about that? Anesh looked worried. Alana sighed. Local police are pissed because we've been doing their jobs better than them, she said. Among other things. technically what we're doing is super illegal, but practically no one has charged us with anything yet, and even though we aren't a big public group, word's getting around, so they don't want to randomly arrest us, but I think this is the start of them, well, harassing and threatening Order members, James growled. Not directly, not at first, but they're making it implicit and constant, and they know we hang out here. He rolled his shoulder. Because they're assholes, he added. Not all of them are assholes, Alana sighed. But that guy there specifically probably is? Anesh cleared his throat. So, again, what are we doing about it? Oh, nothing right now, James said. He seriously cannot hurt us. I don't know if they're aware of that, but it's just true. So we're just going to sit here and relax. Also, yeah, how is Response going? I haven't had time to join a shift in a while, but I really want to. It's going good. And we're back to talking shop, Alana pointed out with a grin, which even a worried Anesh returned. But whatever. It really is going good. A lot of what we do is honestly just kind of like medical transport, helping people out with some random stuff. We're really good at that part, though. EMTs keep asking us for jobs. Oh, Harvey or Karen is going to present a plan to you to actually go formal and interface with insurance companies so we can cover expansion costs. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you that, so act surprised, I guess. I mean, that's cool. I'd prefer to be free, though, James said. It's a weird deal. You'll probably like it, Alana said. But yeah, busy, weirdly non-violent. I mean, based on what I was expecting. Anesh made an appreciative noise. It's better that way, he said. I'm helping out in one of the training courses later this week. It's almost all de-escalation, subdual tactics at most. I think the fact that so far that's basically all we've needed really drives home a point. Well, also to be fair, we don't respond to certain things, Alana reminded him. Well, James wobbled a hand, we don't respond to, like, shoplifting or stuff like that. Yeah, why is that? Alana asked. Isn't that still a problem with the air quotes and stuff? It's a problem we aim to address in other, larger ways, James told her. But also just on a practical level, it's literally not a problem. Unless someone is stealing from, like, a farmer's market, maybe? The company will probably have loss insurance. They're literally not losing any money. Interference from us would just be punitive and stupid, and most importantly, a waste of Response's resources. Remember, if you see someone shoplifting food, no you didn't. But we do get calls about it now, Anesh pointed out. Kind of a lot of calls. I think people think we're reckless vigilantes. Which is totally wrong. Alana leaned forward, folding her arms on the table. We are very precise vigilantes. She looked over at James, grinning wildly. Also, to be clear, just because I expected something different doesn't mean I'm against this. It's working. You've got good reasons. Good enough for me, right? I do appreciate that, James said. I know you've got, like, a personal attachment to the idea of law enforcement, and I love you and shit, so I don't want to be an asshole about it, but the way things are now just doesn't work and we can do better. It's the and shit that really sells that sentence, Anesh added. Fuck it. I agree, I guess, Alana sighed, laying her head down on her arms. I don't wanna, Like, I want things to be better now, but it's hard to not agree overall, and honestly, we can't punch every problem. So I've learned, James admitted unhappily. Actually, James, you talked to Momo earlier, right? Anesh asked him. Did she tell you about the new immunity programs? Somewhat, not all of them. She has supposedly sent me a list, but I haven't seen it yet. James tapped at his phone, scrolling through messages and looking for anything from Momo. Or she's gotten sidetracked. Why, wondering if there's immunity to the police in there? Alana peeked out of her makeshift table bed. I think Sarah said there was one that gave immunity to words, but she might have been joking. Like, from being convinced of things? Like rhetoric? Anesh narrowed his eyes and gnawed at his lip. Or do you mean if words caused physical damage? Like if something was too loud? How do we even test that? We don't. We put it in a box and we bring it out if it becomes relevant, James told him. That said, a couple of these might come in handy for... Wait, hang on, I'm getting sidetracked. Anesh, why did you ask about that? His boyfriend gave a sheepish smile. Oh, I was going to try to make a joke, but now I'm sidetracked with the words immunity, and it wasn't funny. I really hope that isn't real. Anyway, do go on. Oh, I was just gonna say that some of them might be useful for climbing the mountain dungeon, James said, his eyes lighting up. Anesh and Alana both groaned. Alana expressed. It's gonna be cold and covered in snow. I hate snow, she moaned. Also wet, Anesh added. And, attempting to kill us. Though, what else is new? Mostly cold and wet, I suppose. Pretty bloody cold, too, from what we know. It's a dungeon. Come on, where's your sense of adventure? James gave them a vicious little grin. It'll be fun. I mean, obviously, if you two want to come with me. I'm not going to make you or anything. No, I'll go. Anesh sighed loudly and theatrically, swirling the remaining coffee in his cup with a regretful expression on his face. I'll simply complain the whole time, he decided. Alana had a different take on it. Do you think the mountain will have some kind of dragon's hoard of gold and loose gems? She asked. Maybe? Probably not. James gave her a curious look. Why, do you know something I don't know? Nah, I'm just trying to psych myself up for it, she said. Look, I really hate snow. It snows here once every 2 years, and it's stupid. No one knows how to drive in it. I just hide inside until it goes away. Going to a mountain full of snow seems like asking for trouble. James reached over and rubbed her shoulder affectionately. You don't have to come with me, he told her. There's a ton to do here, and I think we're well past the relationship stage of needing to share every dungeon delve. Also, nobody drives in the mountain either. Is that a real thing? Alana asked. James and Anesh looked at each other with sudden curious expressions. Both of them opened their mouths, but didn't say anything immediately. Anesh hummed out. Yes? Kind of? Probably not. I mean, there's a bad tendency that some partners have to want to do literally everything together. James shrugged. So probably? We're all powered by magic now, but we're still people, subject to the same problems as everyone else. Until we stack enough immunity programs, Anesh quipped. Yes, obviously. You think there's an immunity to communication problems? That's called talking, James. Alana snorted. You two are adorable, she muttered, making both boys blush and turn away with mild embarrassment. Also, did anyone name the mountain yet? I do not think so. Anesh clicked his tongue as he thought. Momo has been adding to the operations manual with things about it, but I don't think it's been titled yet. I think officially that privilege goes to the first people in. Alana sat back up and stopped dramatically moping on the table. Oh yeah, I overheard Liz saying that she didn't think she was smart enough to give something a cool name. I find it awkward that people think the weird names I stole from other places for our dungeons are cool. James glared into the lid of his mocha before taking a long, aggressive sip. Where did you steal Officium Mundi from? Anesh asked. Is this going to be something that gets confusing in the future? Are we going to get sued? It's a story Sarah read a long time ago online, and also she named it, not me. So no then, Alana nodded. Good. Okay, that's rude, James protested. It was kind of cool. I'd recommend it if I thought anyone had free time. Actually, wait, Anesh, you have multiplicative free time. I can recommend it to you. Anesh politely nodded, and then turned to Alana. So, any ideas for mountain names? Hey! Alana grinned as she rolled over James's protest. Well, we already used ascent in something. How about something pinnacle? I like that, James nodded, his aggravation dropping in an instant. I do think we should give Morgan and Color of Dawn the option to name it first if Liz doesn't want to. He shrugged. It just feels like a fun little tradition that carries on the rules that biologists have for who gets named species, right? James took a small sip of his drink and sighed as the chocolate and coffee covered his tongue. I don't know about you two, but I think it's kind of important that we actually have some fun. I'm in favor of fun, Alana vigorously nodded. But, counterpoint, they are teenagers. What if they name it something dumb? Color of Dawn is... Anesh trailed off. Cameronda ages are weird, he concluded. They are teenagers, Alana insisted. Well, then they name it something dumb and we get used to it, and it goes from being a joke to a cultural default, just like every meme or piece of slang ever. James gave her a long-suffering look. Did you know the kids these days say bet as a declarative affirmation verb? I don't think that's true, but I also can't prove you wrong, Alana said. Also, that sounds dumb? James chuckled. I mean, I bet that's what my parents thought every time I called something rad, and their parents thought when they said cool. Do you wonder if, like, there's some weird Roman slang for I like this that irritated the parents of the time? Oh, how could there not be? Anesh stretched out, tilting his wire-framed chair back onto two legs. It is the solemn duty of children to annoy the adults in their lives. That's what people keep saying about us, James cheerfully declared. The three of them laughed together. The conversation idled for a bit, as Anesh decided that he too wanted a muffin, and Alana stood up a minute later to use the restroom and stretch her legs. James enjoyed the brief alone time, casually reading about card games on his phone as he took in the night ambiance. There were shouts and laughs from down by the pond, one of the omnipresent groups of kids that James fondly remembered being when he was younger. The sound curled in the air around him, much like the warm night breeze and the smells of cooking food from nearby restaurants, forming a comfortable blanket that no amount of police surveillance could cut through. James sighed and rolled his eyes as he had that thought, glancing over at the still-parked cop car and the officer inside who was either on the longest lunch break ever or was here waiting for something. He rolled his eyes and decided his response to this would be a resounding, whatever. There was, at the end of the day, only so much the police could do to stop them. There was a reason that response teams never teleported to exactly where the problem was, and there was a remarkably high level of security in being unable to be located. It wasn't impossible to infiltrate the Order, but it would be very, very hard for a militarized force to do significant damage to them. And maybe the local police department was, specifically, looking for him, maybe thinking of arresting him, or worse. But good luck to them. James could teleport and block bullets, and he had a handful of other tricks besides. He knew he wasn't immortal or invincible, but it would take more than one cop menacing a parking lot to make him worry. Besides, there was always the very real possibility that the officer was simply here because it was a warm summer evening and this was a place where there were a lot of people outside being rambunctious. Then Alana came back and dropped into her seat, breaking his increasingly confrontational line of thought with a sigh. Anesh is still in line, she informed him. Also, hey, it's really cool no one gives a shit about the Camerondas. You were right. Thanks. James tipped his mostly empty cup up at her. Also, Deb and Frequency are cute together, he added. You know, I'm still not all the way to fully remembering everything, but somehow, you being appreciative of interspecies romance surprises me exactly 0%. Alana grinned like a shark at him. You're getting predictable. Getting? James half protested. I'll have you know I've been predictable the whole time. He thudded his knuckles on the table for emphasis, while Alana laughed at the display. Unrelated, Alana said, after she'd stopped laughing and caught her breath. I wanted to ask something. Shoot. It's about the baths in our basement. She leaned forward on an elbow, turning her hand over as she tried to figure out how to word her question. Okay, so it's cool, don't get me wrong. Like, it looks awesome. It's not even done yet, either. But, She rubbed at her forehead. Is it not kind of weird? Weird how? James asked. Like, weird in that public baths aren't exactly a thing anymore? Yes, that. Alana snapped her fingers. Society, as a whole, has moved on, except for locker room showers, right? James shrugged, maybe a little defensively. I mean, yeah. And I won't lie, I'm not perfectly comfortable with it yet, but I think it's cool, and that discomfort is a me problem, you know? I like the idea of collective spaces, I think. I'll get used to being naked near other people. I'm already comfortable being sarcastic to authority figures and being shot at. Not wearing pants near my friends seems easy. Okay, so yes to all of that. Also, more yes to you being pleasantly nude. Anesh chose that moment to return with his pastry. Oh, are we talking about James being naked again? He asked with a bright smile. I'm on board for this conversation. What? No! James stared up at the night sky with his face a bright red. My culturally instilled hubris. But also that wasn't what I meant. Alana finished her original sentence. And no, kind of. We're talking about the baths. She filled Anesh in. My main question is, why did Bill build it that way? She asked. You, I get. You would absolutely build a cultural fusion magical fantasy public bath. Alana leveled an accusatory finger at James. But Bill isn't you. And even if he had help and suggestions, why did they land on this idea? Mm-hmm. Anesh swallowed the bite of blueberry muffin that he was trying to talk around. I think I can answer that. Bill's thinking. James and Alana shared a glance and then looked back at Anesh. Explain further, James prompted. So, Bill's newish, but he's been around the lair for a while, been helping out with some stuff. He started to tap into our subculture. Now, he decides he wants to do something cool for everyone, something impressive, so he thinks about how we act and what we need, and he puts the two together. He's not the kind of person who would default to whatever we have in our basement now, but he is the kind of person who can plan and think. So he assumed you would think this would be cool and went for it. It was a reasonable explanation, but it left James with a new question. Okay, so I get all that, but why does it look like, you know, that? Why not something more modern? Bill's kind of your average American. How'd he get to that style? Oh, easy, Alana answered, suddenly having a realization. What's the coolest dungeon? Clutter Ascent, James and Anesh said simultaneously, not missing a single instant. Alana nodded. Correct. And what dungeon does the bath remind you of? Clutter Ascent, they both repeated in unison, reaching across the table to high-five each other without looking. Alana grinned as they turned their high-fives into curled fingers, the two boys holding hands almost without thinking about it as they waited for her to continue. She just shrugged. Oh, there you go. Alana spread her hands on the table. That actually fits pretty well. Bill did say his kids suggested making the bath from Harry Potter, which, I mean, same kind of vibe, right? Practical, but a little magical. Okay, very magical, I guess. The mosaic of Rufus on the wall is also kind of great. Think we can get one of Frederick in there, too? James wondered. The gecko guy from the attic? Alana asked. Yeah, gecko, raccoon, spider thing. He's cute. James nodded. Why is so much dungeon life combinations of other things? Anesh asked, suddenly curious. We've never really delved into that question. Alana shrugged. I mean, reading the report from Momo, most of the mountain is just what if parts of the landscape wanted to kill you, so that's novel at least. Oh good, we're back to being beaten up by terrain. James nodded a couple of times. You know, I think the first major injury from a dungeon delve was me being concussed by a plant. What? No, it wasn't. It was when someone missed a crowbar and broke my fingers, Anesh retorted. James cleared his throat, looking sheepishly down at the table and wondering if he could hide underneath it despite all the holes in its surface. Okay, he said, deciding his escape was unlikely. Well, in my defense, I was still level 1 at the time. That probably isn't a thing. Anesh was being boisterous, but clearly wasn't actually mad. Ah well, now we can get beat up by new plants. It'll be fun, I'm assuming. Also, we should really be bringing back samples of things to do more detailed analysis on. And I'm not sure if you know this, but research wants to spend something like 20,000 American monies on a spectrometer just for the weird Route Horizon rubber we brought back. So we may as well make them earn it. Oh yeah, I still haven't been told what's weird about that stuff. James shook his head. Do you know, Reed has been mysteriously absent for a while. Alana frowned. In that way where people go missing sometimes? No, in the way where he's avoiding me, but by accident, James clarified. And then, seeing Anesh give him a dubious look, he cleared his throat and added, Or he's very busy and a hard worker. Anesh nodded at him, and James smiled at having gotten it correct. Anyway, yeah, I'll catch up with him tomorrow or something. He sighed, suddenly realizing his arms were starting to get cold as the night wound on. James itched at the edge of the shield bracer on his left forearm that he wore every time he was outside now. So hey, you two got plans this week? More response, Alana said simply, and James glanced over at her and gave her a double take to the small plate in front of her, raising his eyebrows at her suddenly absent muffin. Shut up, she laughed at him. Yeah, more response. Maybe a dungeon or something. More sewer things? Anesh made a concerned sound. We're not doing the sewer this week. Experimenting with expansion and how soon it starts to reach out. It seemed like the most ethical one to fuck with, considering, you know, it deserves it. It's also under a high school that's now in session? James questioned the methodology of testing with that particular dungeon. It's not perfect, but we have telepads and we have guns, Anesh sighed. I don't like it, but I agree with Reed. We need to know. Also, I think Texture of Bark Dust is working with Lua now, which is safer, but... Okay, I have to ask, why is no one making a big deal out of the Camercondas? I have no idea, James admitted. Alana pointed at him. Refuge in Audacity. You've gotten away with it a lot. It's a very real psychological thing that works on humans. You know that thing where you can just get into most buildings with a high-vis vest and a clipboard? Yeah, it's that. If they acted like they were asking permission, people might think about it and say no, but they're not. They're eating cake and sitting behind the guidance counselor's desk. She chuckled at the mental image. It could also be a dungeon thing, but if it is, it's working hand in hand with good old human blind spots. Well, that works for me for now, I guess, James shrugged. Anesh, what about you? Anything going on this week? His boyfriend was still glowering at him, but eased off as he answered. I mean, now I'm going to be trying to shape an infomorph to test if human psychological effects are weird bollocks or not, Anesh said. But also, more seriously, I'm checking in on our cancer orb distribution project. We've got a large stockpile built up now, and the two people we picked to get it rolling are coming by the lair to discuss getting started. I think the other me is doing the office run, just to fire off another dozen duplication boxes of anti-cancer orbs too. We've got a good supply of mana coffee coming in now, which is neat. No word on that other ritual? James asked. In the tower we found last week? How, exactly? Anesh asked him. James raised a finger and opened his mouth before going quiet and slowly lowering his hand. Yes, that's right, Anesh finished. We really need a full-time post in the dungeon, James grumbled, a little indignant. What about you? Alana asked him, giving him a reassuring pat on the head. Saving the world again or some shit? Nah, I'm mostly doing research and cultural stuff. Couple interviews, giving a short tour to an independent review group to the response program, meeting some members I haven't before, figuring out what weird fucking strategy game half the high school kids in Camerconda seem to have set up in our lobby, that kind of thing. Oh, and visiting a school and taking notes on it. James leaned forward, and his partners gave small smiles as he started talking in that voice he used when he had just learned something new and wanted to share it with anyone who crossed his path. So, there's a style of school that's pretty much only used for exceptionally young kids called Montessori style, or maybe it's the Montessori method, doesn't matter. The point is, the idea is that it uses hands-on teaching and semi-self-directed learning, with the teachers kind of there to be guides as opposed to lecturers, so it's less you have to learn math and more find something that you think is cool and we can help you learn the math you need to get into it. I like the idea, but I'm woefully underinformed, as this rambling explanation may have clued you in on. So I'm going to go ask some questions, look around, see if it's the kind of thing we want to implement on an arcology scale. I knew this was going to be an arcology thing, Alana laughed heartily. Is there, James, anything you aren't planning to put in your magical future city? Cars? James widened his eyes as he thought. Crime and poverty? Transphobes? I don't know, I'll make a list for you. Wait, so you're not doing any dungeon stuff this week? James gave another idle shrug. I might go check out Route Horizon with some people down there. I plan on doing regular check-ins with the rat roaches anyway, just to make sure they're doing alright. Getting acclimated to things like sunlight and not being at constant risk of stabbing is probably a harrowing experience. He pushed his chair back and stretched, indicating he was about ready to head out. Right now, though, I'm good to walk back. Either of you want to come with me? Nah, I'm going to teleport back to the lair, Alana said. Anesh? I'll come with you if that's alright. I'm just helping set up a server rack in the basement, but it's still a thing I promised to do. Shouldn't take too long. Their boyfriend did not look like he believed himself. Alright. Well, we'll see you later tonight, yeah? Alana asked James. I'll be at home. James smiled and stood, bending down at the waist to give Alana a kiss. Then he pivoted on the ball of his foot like a dancer, still leaning forward, to give the same kiss to Anesh. See you two later. The three of them shared a group hug before parting ways, Anesh and Alana slipping around the corner and out of sight from the road to find a place for their teleport. James spun around to walk back the way he came, passing by the big plate glass window of the cafe as he did so, and giving a giddy grin as he saw Frequency of Sunlight lean forward to flick her own tongue across Deb's nose. He also passed by the cop car as he left, still there, the officer inside still watching. James gave the guy inside a sarcastic salute before rounding the corner around another building himself. He briefly considered teleporting home, just in case, but that might have been a little too overt even for him. So he just shoved his increasingly chilly hands into his coat pockets and started heading back at a brisk pace. James stopped at his apartment just long enough to greet the giant white ball of fuzz named Auberdine that met him at the door. He asked the dog if she wanted to walk, in Spanish, of course, the language the dog had picked up from a skill orb, and still feeling pretty energized, James clipped a leash to their pet and maybe roommate and headed back out into the night. It had been a good day. Just nothing happening. There were absolutely things happening at the lair. There always would be, probably. But there was no crisis that James needed to solve. No huge problems he had to address right now. His main responsibility today was to make dinner later for his loves, and see how many episodes of Castlevania he could watch. Tomorrow, there would be time to help out around the lair, to dig into how to abuse the magics they'd earned, to try to build a city in a day, to hire some people, to answer some questions, to do so much. But the days off helped him look forward to it, with an excitement that he had thought he had lost to the past. And so he valued this downtime quite a lot, even if he was itching to see if he and Anesh could actually pilot that weird asphalt mech they had built in the basement. But again, that was for tomorrow. Right now he had a dog to walk, and an evening to enjoy.